Welcome to Dollars and Cents. This is brought to you by the Student Account Services, the Scholarship Office, and the Office of Financial Aid. We do want to say thank you for taking the time to review this presentation. Note the Office of Financial Aid and Student Account Services are separate offices, but we do work very closely together. So in this presentation, Dollars and Cents, we're going to discuss tuition and expenses, the billing process, payment processes, withdrawing from classes, student account holds, and our contact information. About halfway through, we will transition the presentation over to the Financial Aid Office. We do ask that you hold any questions until the end. You can also put them in the chat box at the end of the presentation. We will allow time to be able to answer any questions that you might have. So in front of you, this is a list of the 2020-2021 tuition and fees based on 15 credits for residents, non-residents. Also shows the mandatory fees per term and what the total tuition and fees would be per term for residents and non-residents. Now, there are such things as called differential tuition. What that covers is undergraduate, graduate, and professional schools may have different tuition rates. It's what they call a differential charge. So say, for instance, if you're in the College of Engineering, the College of Business, the College of Forestry, College of Health and Human Services, you'll have a differential charge per credit above your standard tuition rate. In addition, if you're taking an eCampus class, their tuition is assessed separately from our standard tuition rate, and we'll have a separate line item that says eCampus undergraduate tuition. If you wanted to get a more accurate idea of what your tuition and fees would cost, there's a link in the slideshow presentation at fa.oregonstate.edu/budget/tuition and fees. There will be a breakdown of all on-campus and online classes for undergraduate, graduate, resident, non-resident, all in one location. There are other expenses that are billed to the student account, such as lab fees for a chemistry course, a math course fee, PE activity fee, your ID card fee will be there. The first term that you're a registered student, you'll be charged a one-time matriculation fee of $350. University housing and dining charges will be on there. If you go to Student Health Services, Dixon Rec Center, if you get a parking citation, we hope you don't, printing charges, and any library fines you may receive. The student account billing process is as follows. We will send a bill electronically to the student's own email after the 5th of each month. We will not mail paper statements at all. The bill is due by the 1st of the following month the email has been sent. If the balance isn't paid in full by the 1st of the following month, it is subject to an interest charge up to 1% of the balance or 12% APR. Now keep in mind, if you're part of the degree partnership program, you will pay your students at your partner school separate from your balance at OSU. Here's a copy of what the billing cycle looks like for the entire year. We will assess tuition in September for fall term. Financial aid will disperse very closely after that. Classes will begin on September the 23rd. We will send the bill on October the 6th. It'll be due by the 1st of November. For winter term, we will assess tuition on the 27th. Financial aid will disperse on the 29th. Classes will begin on the 4th. We will send the bill on that one on January the 5th, and it's due by the 1st of February. March, for spring term, the bill will be sent on March the 21st. Financial aid will disperse the 23rd. Classes will begin on the 29th, the Monday after spring break. We will send the bill on April the 5th, and it's due by the 1st of May. Now, there are different options to pay your bill. All payments are made online through mvbill.oregonstate.edu. You can pay with an e-check, which is absolutely free. You're using your checking account and your routing number. There is no cost for this. If you want to use a credit card or debit card, there is a 1% transaction fee of the amount of the transaction. You can also pay by check by mailing the payment to OSU, Attention Cashier's Office, P.O. Box 1086, Corvallis, Oregon 97339-1086. Please include the student's name and ID number on them in the memo section of the check. At this moment in time, you can't pay in person at the cashier's office, but there is a drop box located in front of the cashier's office in the Career Administration building. Cash payments are not available at the moment, but you can also pay with, check or money order in the drop box as well. Now here's an example of what the new my.oregonstate.edu will look like for the students. Gives you some of the options that are going to be in your student dashboard. You can see here where it says how to pay my bill, where your financial aid link is, the scholar dollars for the scholarship office, any information about the cashier's office. This is where you pay your bill. You can sign up for direct deposit. It shows where your advanced tuition deposit's been paid. Like I said, here's pay your bill as well. This is a variable, helpful information and a great information. Anything you might need will be available on the financial tab in your student dashboard. If you click up here where it says resources, there's a couple different ways to get into it. Here's an example of what the online bill portal looks like. mvbill.oregonstate.edu. The students log in with their own username and password. Authorized user, this would be somebody you grant access to, which could include a parent, a grandparent. Multiple people can have access to an authorized user. What that allows them to do is that allows them to get the bill and pay the bill, and that's all the information they would have access to. Here's an example of what a billing statement looks like. You can see it'll have the student's information on it. It'll show charges itemized by the description, how much the charge is for and the term that it's for, what the charges are, if there's any credits applied, and then what the current balance is due. Now, registration changes in a term. This is something that's important to understand. The student is financially obligated at time of registration, but if they can change their schedule before classes begin and receive 100% credit, they can change their schedule all the way through the end of week 1 and also receive 100% credit. After week 1, so during week 2 and week 3, they receive a 50% credit for any classes that you drop. And after week 3, there is no refund that's issued, no credit. Keep in mind, if you drop below full time, this could potentially affect your financial aid award. So it's very important that if you're going to do that, you reach out to the financial aid office ahead of time. Now, if there is a refund on your account, so tuition gets assessed, your financial aid goes on, and if there is an overpayment, we will refund that to the students. They can be done by paper check, obviously using the post office to your current mailing address on file, or the student can sign up for direct deposit at your my.oregonstate.edu portal. We do recommend this is the most secure method. It is also the fastest way to receive your refunds. Typically, the money from the time that it's deposited will be in your account within 3 days. Sometimes with the post office, it can take between 5 to 10 days, so it is much quicker, and you don't have to worry about having your check get lost or damaged in the mail. Here's an example of what one of the local credit unions would do if you wanted to set up an account through them to set up your own direct deposit. As you can see, there's different options. This is just one of the local Oregon State Credit Union, but there are some other local banks and credit unions that you can set up an account with as well. So this is something about student accounts. You potentially can encounter a student account hold. Now, if you have a balance that's unpaid from, say, fall term, we're not going to unenroll you for non-payment. However, when registration opens, the start of week 7, if your balance is over $2,200, if you have unpaid charges that are more than 2 terms old, that will prevent registration for the next term. If you have taken a term off, except for summer, the balance must be paid in full for you to be able to register for future classes. You could also encounter a transcript hold, and that would occur if, say, for instance, we're in winter term and you have a balance that's unpaid from fall term. That will block access to your transcripts because you can only owe balances from the current term that we're in. Something to keep in mind, the account belongs to the student. Required student consent is needed to share information to anybody other than the student. Now, there are the releases that are necessary for us to be able to release information is called the FERPA, which is a Federal Education to Right to Privacy Act of 1974. And basically it states that the student's educational and financial record is protected. We cannot release non-directory information without written consent. Now that form can be found online. It can be picked up at the student account window. Now keep in mind the student can revoke this form at any time as well. Now, as we were going back to the billing process, we were talking about setting a parent or a grandparent up as an authorized user. That is separate from the FERPA. The FERPA allows us to discuss the account. The authorized user only allows the parent to see the account, but we cannot discuss it with them unless they have that FERPA document. So it's important to know those are two separate things. Now, if you have a scholarship that was received from a local entity, a local club, a local government, you can send those to Student Account Services. We will process those on your behalf. You would mail them to OSU, P.O. Box 1086, Corvallis, Oregon 97339-1086. If you have any questions or wanted to know if it was received, you can send an email to outsidescholarshipayments@oregonstate.edu. Now, the disbursement schedule is as follows. If anything that we get a scholarship that's less than $3,000, that will be all applied into fall term. If it's over $3,000, it will be divided over 3 terms, fall, winter, and spring. Now, if the donor has given us specific instructions of how they want it to be applied, we will match whatever the requirements are. To ensure checks are processed correctly, please put your name and student ID number included with the payment so we make sure it gets applied to your account. We also offer additional account services. We can go over your account specific information on your MyOSU. We can answer any inquiries or accounts that you might have. We also handle third-party billing to different prepaid plans such as the Texas pre-plan or the Florida prepaid plan. We offer emergency loans and general financial education materials as well. We can be reached by phone at 541-737-3775. Currently, our phones are on from 9 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., but our voicemail was monitored until 3:30 p.m. You can also reach us by email at studentaccountservices@oregonstate.edu. I will now turn the slideshow presentation over to the financial aid office, and thank you for your time.
Okay, so financial aid basics. We've got a lot of ground to cover, so I'm going to move through this really fast, but everything you need to know is on our webpage, financialaid.oregonstate.edu. It's a comprehensive website. It has everything about financial aid in general, everything about the FAFSA, scholarship information. It's all there. So start out with the loans. Loans are a type of aid that needs to be repaid. The standard federal loans are the Ford Direct loans, and for dependent undergraduate students, there is a Parent Plus loan that is a credit-based loan. Then there are grants. Grants are a need-based type of aid that don't need to be repaid. With grants, the standard grants that you'll get potentially from the FAFSA is the Pell Grant, and then for Oregon residents, there is sometimes the Oregon Opportunity Grant. There is the need-based federal work study, and that is offered based on the FAFSA application. It does not need to be repaid, but the amount you see on your award letter isn't necessarily the amount you're going to get. You get paid for hours of work. So on the student side, for the most part, it's just like working any other job on campus. But a lot of students don't get work study in their aid offer because it is a very limited type of need-based aid. But don't worry if you don't have work study, because a lot of jobs on campus are not work study and you can still apply for those. Then there are scholarships. Scholarships are mostly merit-based and they do not need to be repaid. We've got institutional scholarships and you can do outside scholarship searches as well. Okay, so what you want to know is how to navigate your financial aid portal. So this is very new, it's constantly changing. But right now, this is how the financial aid portal looks. The easiest way to get to the portal is just go to the financial aid webpage, and there is a portal link at the top. And what confuses a lot of people is that it won't necessarily be set on the current aid year or the aid year that you need. So if you're not seeing the current year information, then just change the aid year given. Okay, so the financial aid portal is going to have all of your financial aid requirements. If it's an outstanding requirement, it should show up in red. Here you see the questions for the summer survey, so you'll see that depending on the time of year. Here you'll also see the verification requirements. So a lot of students' FAFSAs are selected for verification, and that means we have to collect additional documentation to make sure what's on your FAFSA is correct. So look out for those requirements and always check your OSU student email for requirement messages because a lot of students miss those. This is in the student portal in the aid offer section. So this is where you can go and accept your aid offer. A really important thing to remember here is that we always have an expectation of full-time enrollment. So we always set you up at full-time. If you are less than full-time, for most types of aid, you can receive federal aid at half-time. There are certain types of aid that do require full-time. So if you want to know how your aid is going to change at less than full-time, contact your office, let us know, and we can give you that assessment. But if you don't let us know beforehand that you're going to be less than full-time, there will be a delay in aid disbursement. And the other thing that you want to pay attention to here, and this is really easy to miss, is that you can report outside resources. So if you have outside scholarships, if you have a residence assistance, then those are things that can count against certain types of aid eligibility. If you don't report those early, we may actually have to reduce your aid and reverse aid that's already been paid. So always report those to our office as soon as you know about them. You can report them through the financial aid portal, or we also have a form on our webpage. So using your aid to pay the bill. The way that it works is that shortly before the start of the term, usually about a week and a half before the start of the term, the bill applies to your OSU student account. The financial aid, if all of the requirements are met, should pay onto that bill. So what the financial aid pays. The financial aid won't necessarily pay everything that you've been billed for the term. It will pay your standard tuition. If you're living on campus, then it will pay your housing fees. But if you are living off campus, then of course it won't pay your rent. So you would need a refund to pay for off-campus expenses. It wouldn't pay on to fines, parking permits, health charges, certain other interest fees. So you might actually get a refund and still have a bill that's owed. So even if you get a refund, double check that bill. So you've got two primary scenarios. We get a lot of questions about where's my refund? Why didn't I get a refund? A lot of people, what they don't understand is that we have to pay on to the bill before we give you a refund with most types of aid. So if your charges are greater than your financial aid, we can't give you a refund. What can you do with your refund? So you can use it for any education expenses and living expenses. So you can use it for textbooks, you can use it for rent. This says you can use it to pay back your loans. Usually we wouldn't recommend that because if you're getting more in loans than you need, you want to let us know so we can reduce any future term disbursements because there is an origination fee that gets taken out of the loan. So it's not necessarily beneficial to you if you use your refund to repay that loan. So other expenses. This is really important because we have a lot of questions about the expected cost of attendance, the budget that we give you. And in that expected cost of attendance, we do include the expected expenses for housing, living expenses, even if you're living off campus. So understand that that's in your budget, that's in your expected cost of attendance, but that's not going to be charged to your bill. Another area of confusion is textbooks. There are certain schools where you can charge textbooks to your bill. At OSU, the bookstore is separate, so you cannot charge those to your student account. So mapping the gap. For a lot of students, they don't get enough financial aid from their FAFSA to cover all of their expenses. So it's super important to make a detailed budget to figure out how you're going to cover all of your expenses so you don't come to OSU and it's just, you don't know how to pay for it, you have a huge balance owed, and it can get really stressful, so you want to have a plan. Okay, so this is an example budget, And as you can see in this example, they don't have enough to cover all of the costs for the term. They've got a balance owed even after the financial aid applies. And one of the primary reasons for this is that for undergraduate students, the yearly maximum loans are set really low. So as a freshman dependent undergraduate student, the most you can receive in the Ford Direct student loan is $5,500. So if you don't have outside resources or a Parent Plus loan, then that $5,500 for the year isn't really going to cover all of your expenses in most cases. So options for bridging the gap. You can look for savings, such as the degree partnership program. You can look for a less expensive meal plan, room plan. You can rent versus buying textbooks, lower personal expenses. It's Corvallis. Most people don't really need a car. Financial resources, so you can look for student employment. Parent Plus loan is a great option if your parents are credit approved for that. You can look for scholarships, military benefits, and if you have college savings plan, great. So navigating your options, talk to the Office of Financial Aid, look at our website. Also, there are great resources through the HSRC. And this is just a little summary of the HSRC resources. So they've got a food pantry. They can help you with the SNAP benefits, textbook lending program. If you have any housing issues, they have a wealth of resources. So definitely contact them. This is another example budget. And in this case, they used some of those additional resources we talked about. So they joined the degree partnership program. So they're taking courses at the partnering community college, saving on some of the tuition there. That's especially a benefit if you are considered an out-of-state student. The tuition can be significantly less at a partnering community college. Then they changed the room and dorm plan, and they also got the Parent Plus loan in this case and ended up getting a refund. And a refund can be really useful because even if you have all your charges covered for the term, you would need that refund for additional personal expenses or just to pay for your textbooks. Okay, other considerations. And there's a ton on this slide, but there are things that are often forgotten and create a lot of stress for students, so I just want to go through line by line. So first, studentaid.gov, really important website. That's where you go to do your FAFSA. That's also where your parent would go to apply for a Parent Plus loan. And even more importantly, if you accept loans, for those loans, there is a requirement of entrance counseling and a master promissory note. So right now, you just do the entrance counseling once and a master promissory note every 10 years. But starting next year, the Department of Education has told us that there's going to be yearly counseling and promissory note requirements. And so many people forget to do those, and then their loans just don't disperse. So definitely look out for those requirements. Go to studentaid.gov. Once again, we talked about the full-time credits that we set you up for. So certain scholarships do require full-time enrollment. If you're in the degree partnership program, you have to keep in mind that even if you're full-time between two schools, if you have institutional aid or scholarships, you need to be at least 6 credits at OSU. Make sure to monitor your financial aid. There are so many steps that can be missed along the way. And we try to be proactive and look at student accounts, make sure it's paid. If you see anything weird, just give us a call, send us an email, and we can figure it out. Because at the end of the day, there are so many students and so many different things that can happen with an individual file. We really need you to let us know when something's going on. The other thing here, and this is 2 separate things. So there's something called satisfactory academic progress. For federal financial aid, you have to keep a certain GPA, pace of completion, which is number of credits successfully completed divided by the number attempted, plus you have a certain time frame to complete your degree. If you aren't within those parameters for satisfactory academic progress, you can lose your financial aid. So if you are failing courses, withdrawing from courses, then you definitely want to talk to our office, talk to your advisors, because financial aid could be lost. The other thing you want to watch out for is federal financial aid is earned through course completion. So if you drop your courses, if you withdraw from courses, or if you just don't complete a course, so if you get a failing grade and you just don't do any work on a course, we might have to pull that federal aid back. We really don't want to, but if you're feeling like you can't complete a course, then you want to talk to our office, you want to talk to your academic advisors and make a plan just so you don't end up in a bad financial situation. Okay, this is our contact information. Once again, we would like to emphasize, go to our financial aid webpage. It is awesome, it is comprehensive, use that. You definitely want to send us an email with any of your questions. It's best to send your email from your OSU student email, include your ID number, that way you can respond with specific information. And our hours where we can be reached are Monday through Friday, 10 to 4.